Hello friends, we'll be discussing the concept of marginal rate of substitution. Now, what does marginal rate of substitution means? The word substitution means replacing product A with product B with product C with product D, and it goes on. What is marginal rate? That means with every replacement, what is the difference in the rate that we are figuring out is what we are talking about right now when it comes to every substitution here. Let's understand the first part of it. Now, in case of an indifference curve, a consumer has to always sacrifice some amount of one good, say goods X, to increase the consumption of the other good. This we have already known. If this is the indifference curve, so if you want to increase the satisfaction, you have to sometimes sacrifice some of the goods. That means you might have to sacrifice product Y if this is Y and this is X. If you want more of X, then you might have to sacrifice more of Y. So some part of Y is taken off and that much is replaced by X. Hence you have more of X and less of Y here. So say in order to keep this total utility constant. Now why this is being done? To order, or rather to mention out that the total utility of this concept remains absolutely constant here. There is no change in it. The rate at which the consumer is prepared to exchange one good for the other is known as marginal rate of substitution, that is MRS. Now, this substitution that we're talking about, the rate, whatever rate it is at which a consumer gets ready to change the marginal rate of substitution, or rather to change goods X for goods Y, or rather to exchange goods X for good Y, or rather to say that to let go of goods Y and to take goods X in that place. That rate is known as marginal rate of substitution here. Now let's go on to the next part. Alternatively, MRS, that is marginal rate of substitution, measures the opportunity cost of obtaining one good in terms of giving up the other good. So there is an opportunity cost also that is derived. For example, if you want rubbers and pencils, if you have already more of pencils and if you want more rubbers, you might just give up certain pencils and you must take, or rather you would take more of rubbers there instead of the pencils here. Now how does that happen, and what exactly is the opportunity cost? If you're giving out that many pencils, what is the opportunity cost that you're losing out? There is something that we have to calculate here. Now for example, marginal rate of substitution of XY refers to the amount of Y that a consumer is willing to give up per additional unit of X to maintain the same level of satisfaction, that is to remain on the same indifference curve. Now this rate of substitution will give you the figure, or rather the measurement, as to if you're giving out more of Y for X. Now whatever you're giving for Y and you're taking X in replacement of that, the total utility should remain constant. This is something that you need to make sure. Total utility will always remain constant. So to figure out how will total utility remain constant at that point of time, you need to see how exactly it is going to work out. You need to figure out how exactly it will be in such a position that the total utility remains constant, the equilibrium doesn't get hampered here. Now this is the technical or symbolical formula, that is marginal rate of substitution of X for Y, that is changes in Y upon changes in X, and that will be negative here. MRS is negative because the reduction in Y that is required to maintain the same level of satisfaction while increasing the amount of X. Why is it negative? Because you're giving out certain items of Y to maintain the same level of X so that there is similar level of satisfaction here that has been derived, or that you used to get earlier. It shouldn't be the case that okay itna reduce kar diya, isme itna बढ़ा दिया लेकिन satisfaction उससे भी और कम हो गया. It shouldn't be the case at all. Your satisfaction level should be at one single point itself, what you used to enjoy earlier. For example, let's take an example of your job satisfaction. Now if you are supposed to change jobs, will you be looking for a job which is giving you a salary which is less than your current one, or probably you'll be looking for a salary which is more than your current one? Of course you'll be looking for a salary which is more than a current one, right? You won't be looking for a salary which is absolutely less than the current one. Even if it is less by 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees, it doesn't matter, it is still less. Hence you would want a job which is giving you more salary as compared to the current earnings here. That's the same thing that you need to keep in mind. Satisfaction level should be either at the same level or it should go up. It should never go down here. This is further illustration, or rather illustrated with the help of the table below, where a case of two goods X and Y has been taken and the consumer is substituting X for Y. Now, in the following example that we'll be talking about, we are taking marginal rate of substitution whereby X is substituted for Y. Now, combination A, one good of X and one good of Y, marginal rate of substitution is 0. That means nothing has been mentioned. B gives you 2 goods of X and 32 goods of Y, 1:8 ka ratio. C, 3 and 26, 1:6 ratio. D, 4 and 22, 1:4 ratio, and so on it goes to E and F, 6 and 19, 1:1 ratio. Now, what does this exactly means? There represents 6 combinations of goods X and good Y. These combinations provide an idea that the amount which the consumer is ready to substitute of good Y to get an additional unit of good X. That means the combination that any consumer is supposed to do, or rather he is supposed to give out 40 goods of Y to get one additional unit of goods X. That means here if you see the combination of F, that consumer is willing to give 19 units of Y so that he can have 6 additional units of X. That is the ratio that they're talking about. So when we're talking about this ratio, in the combination A, a consumer includes 1 unit of goods X and 40 units of good Y. That means he has to give out 40 units of Y in order to procure 1 unit of X here. When he sacrifices, or rather he increases the consumption of X from 1 to 2, he sacrifices 8 units of good Y. That is, the marginal rate of substitution for X and Y is 1:8. As he increases the consumption of goods X from 2 to 3 units, the amount of good Y for which the consumer is willing to sacrifice gets down, or rather to get an additional unit of X is 6 units. That is, the ratio is changing to 1:6. So if you see, the more the consumption of X here, the ratio is going down. Earlier it was 1:8 when the consumption from 1 unit of X moved to 2 units of X, and from 2 it moved to 3 units of X. The ratio from 1:8 went down to 1:6 here. This is what you need to understand. Now, further, when the consumer wants to increase the consumption of goods X from 3 to 4 units, now here the consumer, or rather the consumer, is willing to give up only 4 units. Hence the ratio is only 1:4. That is the marginal rate of substitution. So for every 4 units of Y, he'll be getting 1 unit of X. This is what they're assuming here, or this is what the ratio speaks about. Now the decline in the marginal rate, if you see earlier it was 1:8, then is to 1:6, then it is 1:3, then it is probably 1:4, then it is 1:3, then it will be 1:2, or probably 1:1. It will keep on declining. Now why is this declining, or why this marginal rate of substitution is going down? This is something that we need to check. This decline in the marginal rate of substitution of goods X for goods Y facilitates us to draw the following conclusion. As the amount of good X in consumption basket increases, the marginal utility derived from the consumer for an additional unit, it starts declining. We can make sure that, okay, earlier I was willing to give out 8 units of Y for this 1 unit of X. So my marginal utility is high. Now I'm willing to give out only 6. Okay, 6 देते, उससे ज़्यादा देना ज़रूरी नहीं है, ठीक है, चलेगा. Second unit of X, because my marginal utility is going down. Third, it went to 1:4. I can give out only 4, boss, nothing more than that. देने का है तो दे, नहीं देने का तो मत दे. Keep it with you. Here, the marginal utility is going down steep way. Hence, when we talk about एक हाथ ले, एक हाथ दे, why is because we feel that this specific good is not really important after we have consumed a lot of it. Hence, we feel that, okay, that is fine. I don't want it. Nothing much is required. I can still handle the whole situation without even looking into that specific factor. So this is what you need to understand. Now, on the other hand, the amount of good Y in the consumption basket declines. Again, when the ratio keeps on declining, the amount, or rather quantities that is being provided in good Y keeps on declining. The marginal utility from additional sacrifice unit starts increasing. Hence, the marginal utility. Now, if we are giving 8 units of Y earlier and now we are giving only 2 units of Y, you can see the marginal utility of that good is increasing, because I feel, okay, I'm not supposed to waste that much of Y for this 1 unit of X. Why should I waste that? Hence, this kind of feeling comes into the picture, and hence the marginal rate of substitution keeps on declining here. So whatever we have studied right now refers only to the marginal rate of substitution and how exactly the formation of one goods or rather one unit of X with substitutions related to different unit of Y's can be compared, and how exactly the marginal rate of substitution keeps on declining, because the more the consumption of the goods that is being bought in exchange of some other goods, it keeps on declining. So this is what you need to understand when it comes to marginal rate of substitution. That's it for the video. Thank you.